Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Factorio Bob's Angels, episode 44. So, the premise, as I stated last episode for this episode, is to try and streamline iron a bit, get a bit more in. I did quite a bit before the episode. We'll go through it again, like I always claim. Nothing too major, just a load of tidying up, a bit of admin work. Did a few defenses that I didn't want to bother me this episode. We also put in a third belt of throughput of crushed stone because it's still building up. It's still causing a little bit of an issue, but I think we cracked it. We also put in some slurrying of crushed stone just to help using it up at the storage at the other end. And currently we can see all the Angel's ores on the belts there, but the biggest shortfall is Javolite. We're not getting enough Javolite through. So one of the things I did at the start of the episode was cut off the Javolite miscellaneous sorting because we're going to focus it 100% on combination sorting for iron. We don't really need the slag slurry or the copper from it. We've got loads of copper, tons, so much so that it's all shut off at the moment. Because the major thing I did before the episode was do all the circuitry for all the miscellaneous sorting. The only thing I forgot was this last little bit for the flotation for bobmonium, so we get this water done at the start. But yeah, it gives me a chance to just go through what I did. Currently we're just putting in a second water line because if all these were to run at the same time, we wouldn't have enough water coming through from the pumps. There probably still isn't enough, but that kind of improves it a little bit. So yeah, all the circuitry's in. A lot of this should all shut off if combination was all running at full speed, so we're going to be relying on combination primarily. This area is going to become sort of a backup for if one of the two ingredients for combination sorting runs out. This will kick in when certain ores run out. It's still not perfect, but it will kind of work like that. It also, all the warehouses have been changed to passive providers, so any of the combination that needs chunks, crystals or whatever, the logistics system has access to it. And yes, I'm going to be doing all the bitty stuff from the combination sorting with logistics, although my realization that I have at the end of the episode may change that, but we'll get into that at a later point. So yeah, we start, we're going to sort of work backwards with the iron. I start by working on the smelting area. I pre-crafted a load of steel furnaces at the start of the episode, which we've just placed out. At the end we're going to add an extra copper smelting area and an extra iron area. I probably could have done 2 iron, but well, I can always add that. It doesn't take too long. And yeah, one of the big parts of this episode is priority splitters. So we had 2 of the priority splitters here because eventually the coal's not going to be going through here and we're going to need 2 full belts going to either side of the smelting. When these become electronic furnaces with beacons, 2 belts is yeah, still not going to be enough. It's going to be producing a huge amount. It's also why I've been reluctant to have too many smelting areas, because as soon as we get to productivity modules, speed modules, we're probably not even going to need that many of these areas. I don't know, we'll see when it comes to it, because with a load of beacons it'll quite easily reach the bottleneck, which will be belts. They'll be able to smelt way faster than the belts will be able to transport it. So the idea of these priority splitters is the way they work is they force everything on the 4 belts down to the bottom row, or at least they should do. In this episode there's not really a good example of them working. There's like one bit where it works properly. We're not actually using this ore fast enough to sort of display it here, but yeah, the idea is it forces all the belts down to the bottom row if there's not enough coming through, and then as that bottom one's full it moves up to the second one. So yeah, it's kind of nice and clear when you haven't got enough of something coming through, and it shifts it all down, because on the main bus where we're going to have plates going through, there's going to be like 5 or 6 belts of iron plates and probably 4 of copper due to how much iron we're using in the science revolution. But yeah, this design comes from Stijo. It's his design, which he did a couple of videos on. In my last vanilla playthrough, it worked really well. I really liked it. The original design didn't work very well, and then this revised design with the extra splitters kind of works really well. It shows you when you're not getting enough coming through. The old design kind of limited the belts a little bit, so it was a bit pointless. But in my experience, this has worked well, and we'll see how it goes with this series if I've actually copied the design across properly. So the 3 splitters running on the belt, apart from the 2 actually passing off to wherever the ore's going to, have 2 belt readers behind it, and then 1 above it that says if open if greater than 8. So if there's more than 8 of whatever the items are in the first 2 readers, it'll open. If not, it closes that top one, forcing those 2 belts down to the next one. And there's 3 of those, which then eventually force all of the material all down to the bottom belt. There is another balancer that just forces everything down. It's not used to actually split anything off, and it's handy to stick those in occasionally, because these do occasionally let stuff through on the 3rd row, I think it is. It's a bit weird, but we'll see that in a bit. I've got a feeling some people are going to really hate these, but in my vanilla playthrough where I built a pretty huge factory, it was like an 8 iron 8 copper vanilla factory. These were really handy to have because you could see where you know, the belts could no longer throughput enough if whatever they were feeding are running at full speed. So you know you need to bring in new lines of stuff, or there's no point having the 4 belts. And it also means whatever you're feeding gets a full belt, and it doesn't let anything past until, you know, that belt is completely full, and it doesn't hold up belts at all in my experience. But yeah, we'll see when eventually comes around to people seeing this episode, because I'm getting quite ahead on recordings at the moment for a couple of reasons. But yeah, we'll see what people think. At this point, I kind of struggle with the plates because I forget which one's iron and which one's the steel feeding it. When we get rid of the coal, I will have the iron plates coming off the steel production that isn't used passed onto the bus. So if we're not using steel but we're using loads of iron, then it will come from here. But the steel smelting will still have access primarily to that iron. So yeah, I'll put that in. It's a bit hard when there's coal on the belt at the moment. I could use like a loader with a filter, but I can't really be bothered. I'll put it in when we get rid of the coal and we go to electronic furnaces, which will happen when I'm happy with the power. Steel and electronic furnaces smelt at the same speed, so I'm not going to go to electric until I'm really confident with power. It'll probably be when we go nuclear. But yeah, again, we're doing quite well on power at the moment. I've been putting out solar panels and accumulators between episodes, so we're doing fairly well there. So yeah, the next step, once we've upgraded the smelting a little bit, we did a copper line there, which I think I connected up. We're just waiting for the factory to produce the belts for us as we come in and connect in these the belts for the extra iron smelting. Again, it won't be able to fill those belts completely, but as soon as we move up to electronic with productivity and speed modules, we'll be able to fill those belts quite easily. We'll probably need even more of an output. And yeah, I'm going to be using these in places on the main bus as well where we need a full belt going through, like blue science is one that seems to use an exceptional amount of iron plates. I try and put it in here, and there's something wrong with the belt production. It's not quite working right. I still haven't really tidied this area up. It's a bit crude. There's settings on the inserters to say don't pass these on unless there's a certain amount in the system. Then we're not requesting them, and there's too many in the system from me upgrading, and it kind of breaks. I then fix it, but it's still not perfect. This isn't generally how I have it laid out, because of course the bots keep taking them from the provider to the requester, and it is kind of a bit of a mess. It is using stuff in the logistics system over making new stuff, just not very well. I need to go and have a look at my old design. I still haven't bothered to, but we will at some point tidy this up, because at the moment, yeah, it's a bit of a mess, and it's using a huge amount of iron when it is running at full speed. But again, this will be fed by a priority splitter to make sure it does get full belts. So whenever we're using loads of belts, science will sort of have to take a step back. So we carry on expanding this. I think I only do this up to the belts. I don't bother doing it all the way to military and purple science. But at least if we're feeding blue completely, once that backs up, this will then feed on to the rest of the factory. And yeah, I wasn't really happy with how this was all shoehorned in. To begin with, I placed it too low down. It needs to be a space up. I realise it after it's been produced, and I delete the whole thing and place it again. And then I have to place them in weird spacing. Yeah, which isn't ideal. I think there's another one for taking 2 splits off without it being too long. But at the moment, I just have this design, and I just shove it in anywhere and use underground belts, passing it back a little bit, which, yeah, kind of triggers my fussiness, because I want it to be quite tidy. But yeah, for this episode, I just get it in just to try and show it working. But because I'm using a mixture of like yellow and red belts, it doesn't really display it properly, because yellow belts going onto red belts disperses the plates a bit, and it kind of just doesn't really work very well. But we at least get the 2 full belts carrying on to the rest, which is what we had before we started this episode. So then I kind of stare at this for a bit and wonder if it's working properly or not. But again, because I'm using a mixture of yellow and red, it's not really a true show of it. I should really get this bus upgraded now. I consider putting in one for the copper, and I think I'll just leave it for now. We've got iron going through to belt production, so that's all good. We've got a full belt now hitting the blue science, which it wasn't doing before. It was kind of splitting it off in half. So we've got plenty of blue science production going on. I'll just come and show quickly the crushed stone slurrying we've got, and the mineral catalyst. Is it called the mineral catalyst for some of the combination sorting, which is what I wanted to get on with for the second half of the episode. One thing I completely forgot to do was connect the new copper smelting area. I'll do that after the episode. I'll go and connect those 2 belts in, and probably put in a priority splitter at least for that circuit production, because we're not getting enough copper going through there. And that's kind of an example of the problem. If you don't use a priority splitter, you don't get a full belt going through, you just get half of the product. Yeah, you could probably increase the amount of smelting, but again, we'll see later on how handy these priority splitters are, if indeed it does still work quite well. We got another attack which we looked at on the map a minute ago, down on the southwest wall, which is a wall I still haven't finished, but I ignore it and hope that it doesn't become a problem in the episode. But yeah, that's one of the walls that needs finishing. It is probably going to stay permanent because there's nothing special around there I want to push out to, apart from just pushing the biters out of the pollution. But as of yet, I can't see any nice bottlenecks there. So yeah, as of now, for now, I'm not going to push that area any further. So yeah, we want to get some more combination sorting done. One of the things I wanted to do was double up the iron ore sorting, which I ended up doing after the episode. We double up the amount of sorters there, which we can still support fine with the amount of crush we're doing. So we have the construction robots just clearing the area where all the combination sorting is going to be. We've placed the next combination section, which is going to be for copper, but there seems to be a problem still with the belt production. I come down and have a look, and the value on the inserter I copied was to prevent us using yellow belt until there's a certain amount in the system, which is the one feeding the red assembler. So I then changed that to be less than. So if there's less than a certain amount, it will pass it on. Then I come and have a look at the priority splitter again, and I create the part of the priority splitter which pushes all the stuff down without the actual splitting bit. So it kind of works. It should make sure to only use the second belt or the third belt or the fourth belt if the bottom one is full. Or I think it kind of works in reverse. If there's not 2 full belts behind that splitter, it forces it down to the next belt. And because there are 3 of them, it ends up forcing everything down to the bottom belt if it's not full. But again, you can kind of see it working there. You kind of can't, but because it's coming off a yellow belt onto a red, it doesn't really work properly. But I promise when all the belts are set up properly and you're using loads of it, it does work properly. And I do need to finish extending that belt further on. It's something I'll tidy up later on. But I'll swear down, in my vanilla playthrough it works okay. Whether there's stuff that's changed since then that stopped it from working, I don't know. But yeah, from my past experience, I do promise it does work okay, and I'll try and find a good example of it at some point just to prove myself. If I'm wrong, then I'll eat my words and I'll take it out of the system. But yeah, enough about the priority splitters. I think that's enough for priority splitters. This episode, we come and get the sorters set up for copper, which is a combination of stereotyte and crotinium. But yeah, we need another 2 areas like this for lead and tin. So we'll be using combination sorting primarily over the miscellaneous sorting area. So the circuitry I've put in everywhere, basically for the first stage of each product, it says if there's this much in the warehouses that are acting as the buffer for the smelting area don't produce this product, then I won't put circuitry on these combination sorters. So what'll happen is, if I say run out of stirritite and we don't have enough copper in the warehouse, the crotinium miscellaneous sorting down the bottom will use the most basic form to start producing copper, which still does have some problems. Say we weren't using iron at all, then eventually iron would build up because that's the other product there, but I doubt that's ever going to happen with the amount of iron we're using. And then stuff like lead is controlled by nickel, and we're never really going to use that much nickel, so I don't think we're ever really going to have any lead coming from the rubite sorting area. But it's still set to function to create rubite chunks or rubite crystals and put them into passive warehouses, so they'll always be available for the other recipes of combination sorting. So we are going to get some products still being produced in the miscellaneous area, but yeah, we're going to be relying on combination sorting for most things. I just think it's nice to have a backup for if any of the certain resources runs out. We don't want to have nothing coming through. We still want to at least have something coming through. But yeah, because of the amount of time it took me to do all those circuits and then getting all this area set up, I thought, is there any point having any of the miscellaneous sorting first? Because this is now so far away from the base. I mean, by the end of this episode, I started contemplating deleting the entire Angels sorting area and just starting again, maybe widening the ore belts coming up from the warehouses so that it's a lot wider, so we will always have enough Angel ores coming through. I don't know. It's obviously a lot of work for me to completely delete the entire thing and start again, and it is a bit stupid. But yeah, I'm starting to think, is one belt of bobmonium and rubite and then 2 belts of the other 4 ores going to be enough? Shouldn't I lay it out in a way where it's the width of one warehouse, which is 6 belts, and then it, you know I'm never going to use 6 belts of rubite or bobmonium, but 6 belts across width-wise isn't really that much space, and I've got a hell of a lot of space up in this area. You know, should I do the combination sorting first and then just have a messy sorting bit above it just for the bits I need for the combination sorting? I don't know. The whole thing's a bit of a mess, and it's making me rethink the whole thing. But I promise there won't be any more full episodes on Angel sorting. I do get this area finished after the episode. We nearly get there before the end of the episode, but I kind of give up having it in the recording because there's no point me continuously talking about it, and there's no point speeding the episode just to fit it in the 20 minutes. But yeah, if I do decide to redo the entire sorting area, I promise it won't be in an episode. I'll just do it in between episodes, probably after we've got the power armor done and, you know, we're getting somewhere with science. I'll just spend a few hours in between the episode just completely relaying it out, and because I've got so much space up here, I can change it any way I want. But I promise it won't be on an episode, so you won't have to sit here watching all this yet again. So anyway, we get the combination sorting laid out for the gold, because I'm going to need a lot of gold for the electronic logic board, and that's hopefully what I'm going to be doing next episode, is getting the electronic logic board sorted out, some yellow science, so we can, you know, start to get as close to power armor as we can. We also need gold for modules, but yeah, we're very close to modules. It's in my list of things to be researched. I may bump it up the queue soon just so I can get there a bit quicker, but in the next couple of episodes we're going to be doing electronic logic boards, modules. We can start putting beacons out where needed rather than having to extend rows even longer. One of the bad things I did in my last playthrough was extend lines way too early, much longer, just to produce that product faster, and then modules came along and all these rows were way too long. So the quicker we can get to modules, the better, and the much more productivity we'll have, or efficiency in terms of productivity. So I come and put in some priority splitters. I did say no more priority splitters this episode, but there are just these 3 more, just because we weren't getting enough iron coming through for belt production still. I was stood around waiting for belts to come up in the production. You can see we've got over 600 requests at the moment, which are all belts. So I quickly come and shove this in, but I promise no more priority splitters after this bit. But yeah, I noticed that one is kind of missing its circuit condition there, but you can see that's now pushing all of the iron down to the bottom belt, apart from those little bits coming through there just as I say it. But yeah, it is kind of working there. It's forcing everything down to the bottom belt. Again, we're using mixtures of yellow and red, so it is kind of getting a little bit confused. But once they're all red belt or blue belt, it does work quite nicely in my experience. But yeah, no more priority splitters, I promise. One thing I've just noticed while watching that though, I did break the iron input for engines, for electric engines and normal engines for robot production and wherever else they're going to be needed. So I need to go and fix that after the episode. I didn't notice that while I was recording because I wanted to get the belt production sped up before the end of the episode. But by the time I've done that, we get really close to it. We have all the inputs for these sorting areas done. We have all pretty much the sorters set up. Rubite's nice and quiet because we're not using it at all. That's all shut down now because we've got plenty in the system. Yeah, we just kind of wait for all of the belts to be placed out. So next episode, I'm going to be doing electronic logic boards, as I've said several times. Maybe some modules or yellow science. I need to see what's involved for yellow science. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. In between episodes, I'll sort out the outputs for all this combination sorting. Basically, just because of the shortage of belts, we don't need to sit here and watch it all produced. But with a little bit of assistance from past me, we do finally get all the Angels ores coming through, and all the combination sorting does kick off. But yeah, that's going to be all we have time for this episode. I do hope you have enjoyed watching, and please do come and join me next time. Bye bye.